We run up to the Codemasters here at E3 to talk a bit about Formula One racing and the Formula One 2011 game. And let's just start out with, for someone like me that's not, I've never been able to get into Formula One, and when I watch it, it just seems like cars running around the tracks over and over again. But I have a lot of friends that you're completely obsessed with Formula One. What is it with the sport that makes it so fascinating for people?
I think it's because it's pushed on TV massively, and I think there's that whole life that revolves around Formula One as well, and it's an interesting story. It's like the kind of tabloid story. People like seeing what's going on, how the developments are across the season. Is Hamilton going to do this? Who's his big rival? Is it going to be Alonso? You've got famous brand names in there like Ferrari and Mercedes are back in there now. Michael Schumacher comes back into the sport. People can't avoid seeing these news stories, and it only takes one or two things to kind of spark that interest, and they start watching the Grand Prix, and that's when you really get it.
And that's also, incidentally, one of the things you wanted to capture. We just had a great presentation of the game and just live the life. What kind of stuff can the players expect that loved 2010? What can they expect from that part in 2011?
Well, 2010 did have that live the life element, but we're focused on Be the Driver last year in the single player experience, and this is more about kind of go compete and multiplayer. Live the Life in 2011 is about kind of replicating the things that your friends are watching on TV. If they see, for example, the drivers winning or being in the top three, normally they would see the podium, but the Parc Fermé is a really cool thing. That's when the drivers get out of the car, they're celebrating with everybody else, the mechanics, that's that raw emotion. And we're trying to copy those things and make them available not only in single player, which is normally where you'd expect to have the career mode, but push them through to multiplayer as well. It's your moment in the spotlight, if you will. So everybody else has to watch your drivers celebrating. That's your moment of glory. It's things like that. Or doing the media interviews. Last year we had the media interviews, but now in 2011 we can actually better showcase what's going on, the game mechanics, through newspaper clippings, for example, or headlines or articles. So you can read about yourself in the media and think, oh, I didn't quite want to say that about Ferrari, I shouldn't have done that. And you can kind of modify what you're saying in the future.
One thing that sounds really interesting, even to me, is there's a co-op campaign. Kind of you team up. How does that work?
Yeah, so Formula One's really all about teammates, and we kind of pushed that angle last year, whereby you'd have an AI teammate. So if you're driving for Ferrari, you're looking across the garage, comparing your stats. Has he got more points than me? Who's the team leader? Who are the team backing? That kind of stuff. But it really becomes personal when it's somebody that you know, another human competitor. So now in 2011, you can take all that stuff online and try to improve the fortunes of a team. So maybe you and I will want to be teammates at Ferrari or McLaren or Red Bull or whomever, and then we're kind of fighting over who's the team leader, who gets the R&D parts first. But then working together in order to try and get the constructors title. Later on in the season, you realise there's that rivalry because only one of you is going to win the driver's title. It's cool stuff like that we read about in the papers and see on the news all the time. To be able to do that online is cool, and we save your progress throughout the season so that you can start and stop whenever you want.
How is multiplayer shaping up for Formula One 2011? Just competitive racing online.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of pushed multiplayer last time, but it kind of lost out to the single-player experience. With another year's worth of development, with foundations for 10, it means very early on we could start working on a multiplayer. And there's no better feedback than people in the office who are super competitive in the multiplayer games. You know, if we don't like one of those elements, or how so many of the components work, like penalties or the feel of the car or the handling or the tyres or the DRS and KERS that are in the sport this season, you kind of get immediate feedback. So we've been working on that massively. One of the huge improvements this year is having 24 cars online. Last year, if you remember, we only had half the grid, which was 12 cars. Now we can have 16 human drivers and 8 AI characters on there as well.
With players that dedicated, or fans that dedicated to the sport, what kind of feedback have you gotten from 2010 that you're bringing with you into 2011?
Well, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people that watch Formula One religiously have their own opinions on what should be in the game, and we hear about those all the time. I mean, I'm getting Twitter messages all the time. I want to see X, Y, and Z in the game. That's got to be there. And then somebody else will disagree with them and say, no, these are the fundamentals. So you can never find people that completely agree on what should be in the series. But we do take all their input. More often than not, it justifies the things that we want to put in the game and gives us ammunition to say, look, we want to make the game this way because that's what the fans are after. One of the things that they were asking for last year that we didn't really see coming was 2-player split screen. it was phenomenal how many people were asking for that. So we knew that we were up against it and we had to deliver that in Formula 1. Dirt 3 kind of paved the ground for that by putting 2-player split screen in. We've got that in Formula 1 now, so I'm pleased to say that they get one of the features they asked for.
Now I'm going to ask a question that I won't understand the answer to, but I know a lot of people that are religious about Formula 1 will. We saw a lot of abbreviation in there, different systems and everything. You could just have been making stuff up. I wouldn't have known the difference. But can you tell us a bit about that, kind of the nitty-gritty details of the various systems that made it into Formula 1 2011?
Yeah, I mean, Formula 1's all about the kind of tactics and strategy. I mean, that's what really separates Formula 1 from other race series, and certainly separates our game from other competitors like Forza 4 or Gran Turismo. They're kind of built around trying to be as quick as you can, lap after lap after lap. And in Formula 1, that's what you do in qualifying. But the race is kind of taken at a slower pace, and you don't have to be the fastest driver in order to be the winning driver. It's about kind of that tactics and strategy. Now, all the kind of technology we put into this game that would sound massively techy and geeky is actually there for the players. So, for example, in 2011, we've improved the weather system further. We got a lot of accolades for that last year, but I'm pleased to say things like, well, when I go outside and I wonder whether or not it's going to rain, I look up at the sky and think, well, it looks like it might rain. That's exactly what a lot of the teams end up doing where their technology fails them. So we've got dynamic clouds in there now, so that the player can actually look up into the sky and think, oh, it looks like there's a 50-50 chance of raining, and kind of do those gambles. The tactics that come into play, such as if I were to pit now, what kind of position would I come out in? That's available on the OSD. We have the race engineer that's available to kind of walk the player through races or race sessions, so that if you don't really know Formula 1 inside out, and let's face it, a lot of people don't know about all the nitty-gritty rules, he's there to kind of help you, to remind you, oh, you can use KERS now, DRS is available, we need to do this, or we need to save our tyres, or this is kind of lap time you need to be doing in order to be competitive. So it's just like real Formula 1, they help you through it.